Welcome back. You're still tuned into Trading Hour. Let's get our first corporate conversation from the sidelines of the 21st Motilal Oswal Annual Global Investor Conference. We are now joined by Jairam Sridharan, who is the MD and CEO, Retail Lending and Piramal Enterprises. Jairam, good morning. Thank you so much for joining in and patiently waiting by as well. You know, the big talking points that we want to be discussing with you is, will AUM growth pick up pace from here? Is drag from legacy portfolio fading away? And the asset quality trends in car loans and MSME improving or not? And of course, the big story that we have been tracking, and that's the possible GST cuts that would come by as well. So, Jairam, I would like to start with that first up. If there will be some impact on credit growth, because sales are now getting postponed till the time some clarity comes in. So, will there be an impact on credit growth? And if the cuts do come by, what kind of macro impact will you see on consumption and rates overall?
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for having me. Your point is right that so far the GST announcement has had a negative effect on credit growth and on growth of the underlying products, because everybody's waiting for clarity to emerge on which products are going to be in which category. One hears that there might be something coming up later this week when the GST committees meet. So let's see what happens there. But so far, in cars, for sure, you're seeing people postponing purchases, and in multiple other categories where people have a feeling that a boost might come in the form of a lower GST. Postponement of purchases is very much happening. And so far, impact has been negative. Now, there will be all this negative will go away, and kind of a revenge buy situation will happen the moment the final announcements come in. But on the net, will it result in a sustainable increase in and a steady increase in overall demand? One hopes so. I would hope for a 10% kicker in overall demand for these products if GST does indeed go in the direction that people are expecting it to. But let's wait and see. Like so far, it's been a bit of kind of waiting for the bride, unfortunately.
Indeed, Jairam, good morning. Thank you for joining in. One of the major segments, of course, with regards to this GST has been the automobile segment. And in your earnings call prior, you highlighted that vehicle loans and MSMEs, there is a bit of stress that you're witnessing. And both of these segments, correct me if I'm wrong, is almost a third of your book. What are the trends that you are currently witnessing right now on ground, now that we are almost 2/3 of the way into the second quarter as well? Do you see those concerns rising, and as a result of which the GST impact may come in later on, but for now, for the second quarter, do you see credit costs going higher for you as a company?
Right. Let me start with this last part and then I'll pivot to the others. No, we don't expect to see that. Credit costs are holding on pretty steady. I don't think there's going to be any noticeable delta in the unfavorable direction. I think we are largely okay. The point you made about car loans kind of having a negative risk impact in the first quarter is absolutely right. After about, I want to say 12 quarters of being in the 90 to 100 basis points range, 90-day delinquencies in car loans shot up to 130 basis points in the first quarter, which surprised us a little bit. And we called that out in our earnings call, and we said that, hey, there's something going on in the car loan segment, which at the moment we're not fully understanding, but it looks like risk has gone up a little bit, right? However, things have not gotten any worse from there. Things have been kind of steady at that level. So I don't expect to see any deterioration. We are 2 months into the quarter. Doesn't look like a lot has changed on that front. Between car loans and MSME, and by the way, when we talk about MSME and kind of risk issues in MSME, that's all in the MSME unsecured space. The secured MSME space or the lab space has actually been quite good. There has actually not been any risk deterioration there at all. So between MSME unsecured and car loans, we have about 12% of our book. There, yes, we have seen risk deterioration in car loans last quarter. MSME risk deterioration was more concentrated in the previous year, but it has stayed at those high levels, has not actually gotten better since then. So those are two segments we continue to watch closely. Neither of those two segments has worsened from quarter one levels, but neither have they improved. So I would say about both of them that they are steady at relatively high levels of risk.
Okay, so we are in the wait and watch when it comes to these two segments. Jairam, I wanted to understand what the cost of funding environment has been like since we are in a rate cut environment. There is possibility of more. What's your take here?
So the rate cuts have shown more life and more pass through in the capital markets. So if you're trying to look at the debt capital markets, the rupee bond market, for example, we have been able to raise money at about 45 basis points lower than what we were doing at the same time last year, right? So that's the level of transmission we have seen in the bonds market. However, in the loan market, we are actually not seeing that much transmission yet. Very few banks, if any, have cut their MCLRs, and those that have cut have probably cut by like 10 basis points or so. So I'd say on average, we are seeing maybe a reduction of 5 to 10 basis points in the loan market, but about 40-45 basis points in the bond market.
Jairam, the other bit about the company has been your merger with Piramal Finance. So what we get to understand is that you're still awaiting merger approval from the NCLT. And based on what you have mentioned earlier, it's supposed to be completed by the third quarter of FY26. Are you on track for that? And once that happens, how much of that do you see benefiting from the merger in terms of your balance sheet?
Right. So yes, we are on track. The NCLT order has been reserved for judgment, which essentially means that they just need to read out the order now, which could happen over the next 10 days or so, or it could be a little bit more than that. But we are talking days now rather than weeks or months. So once we get the approval, and then we will file with the ROC for merger, and effectively our merger will be completed. And once the merger gets completed, our listed stock today, which is Piramal Enterprises, will be delisted for a period of about 45 days, and Piramal Finance, which is the bottom co, our shares will get listed as Piramal Finance at roughly 45 days after that. So that's broadly what to expect from here. It should result in much simpler company structure for investors to understand, one balance sheet for both lenders and equity investors to look at. But fundamentally, from an economic standpoint, nothing should really change. Our economic fundamentals remain exactly the same pre and post the merger.
Take that point. Jairam, last question before we let you go. You know, we did see that reversal of risk-weighted lending that we saw coming in from banks to NBFCs, but still banks are cautious in lending to NBFCs. Can you explain what's happening here and why it hasn't picked up meaningfully the way it was expected to?
Yeah, you know, it has picked up a little bit. Like, I wouldn't say that it hasn't picked up at all, particularly with public sector banks. Things have picked up, and the appetite of the banks towards NBFC lending have indeed changed. With some of the other parts of the banking sector, there have been a few other challenges. Like there have been a credit to deposit ratio challenge outside of the public banking sector, which has actually weighed heavily, and that hasn't changed. Even as the NBFC sector weightage has moved, the CDRs haven't necessarily come into a more happy territory for some of the other banks. So there, we need to see more deposit growth before you start seeing some of this credit growth to happen.
Thank you very much, Jairam, for sparing time and joining us today on the sidelines of the Motilal Oswal Annual Investor Conference. Wish you good luck for the rest of the year as well. The management of Piramal Enterprises on the awaited merger with Piramal Finance, the impact on the company, and of course, what goes ahead for the business. But the big story of the day